If you're listening to this podcast right now, I just have to say thank you so much for supporting the Graduated and Grown podcast. What is up, y'all? Happy Wednesday, and welcome to another episode of the Graduated and Grown podcast, hosted by none other, your lovely host, Miss Ariane. Hey, y'all. So I am feeling good. My workday is over. I finished watching The Bachelor, and the season is over. That is also a good thing, y'all. I have so much that I want to talk to you guys about. Today's episode is specifically focused on this last season of The Bachelor. If you guys were living under a rock, you probably wouldn't know this, but for everybody else, we all know that Matt James was the very first Black Bachelor that the franchise has had, and this season has been a headache, literally in every single way possible. I was really excited for this season because I thought, Matt James is a little cutie. He's really going to do his thing. But so much happened this season that honestly, this season was draining. And I'm not going to spend this whole episode just bashing on The Bachelor, but there were some really good parts, and there were just some. We're going to talk about that. So if you're interested in talking about The Bachelor, we're going to talk a little bit about Beyonce for our topic of the week. Be sure to sit back, relax, rate this podcast 5 stars. Go ahead, finish driving to work, finish driving to your boo's house, finish cleaning your room. Get comfortable because this is about to be an episode. It's not about to be really long, but it's about to be an episode.
I don't know about you, but I think adulting is hard. Figuring out your love life, finances, friendships, professional life, health, and how to make a freaking doctor's appointment on your own can be so overwhelming sometimes. So, welcome to Graduated and Grown, a podcast that's focused on helping you and me overcome the struggles of adulting. Let's have some fun yet honest conversations about life once you're graduated and grown.
Welcome back, my loves. So, for this week's topic of the week, we are going to talk about the one and the only Beyonce, insert middle name here, Knowles Carter. I should know Beyonce's middle name, but I really can't think of it right now. It's okay. So, if you guys didn't know, the Grammys was this past weekend, and Beyonce officially became the most awarded woman in Grammys history. Now, when I was with my friends when we found this out, and we're like, oh, well, who was the person that had it before? Somebody by the name of Allison Cross. I apologize. I don't know who that is. Apparently, she's a bluegrass singer. Yo, Allison, shout out to you for holding that title down. That's such an amazing title to have. And I'm so happy that my queen Beyonce has officially won that title. That is so exciting for her. So she officially now has 28 Grammys sitting in her house. Isn't that crazy? 28 Grammys in her house, 28 Grammys in her legacy. Wow. That is so freaking awesome. And I thought it was also kind of funny. Apparently, Beyonce and Jay Z weren't even supposed to be at the Grammys, but they popped up at the last minute. They probably were informed that she was probably about to make some history because it would have been kind of weird if Beyonce wasn't there and she made Grammy history. So they probably made a last minute decision. But you know, Beyonce is known as being Queen Bee. She's known as being at the top of her game. She's like reigning all supreme. And there was a point when I was not really feeling Beyonce that much. I'm sure a lot of you guys probably went through this. It was around the Lemonade era. And I was like, B, Bay, Queen B, Beyonce, what are we doing right now? I'm not feeling this. I need you to go back to the Love on Top, that Beyonce. I need you to go back to that era. But you know what? I had to realize people change as their lives change. Beyonce was probably going through a lot with the whole Jay-Z cheating scandal. We never even got an update about that. But you know what? That's none of our business. So that's okay. But that was a point in time when I was not feeling Beyonce. I wasn't really listening to her music, wasn't just keeping up with her, wasn't interested in Ivy Park, none of that. But as time passed, I was like, okay, I'm feeling Beyonce again. I think her Coachella performance is what reined me back in. Like, she grabbed me by my neck and my edges and pulled me back in, like, to the Beyonce queendom or Beyonce fandom. She is so talented. It's actually unreal. Like, that's what blows my mind. Her talent is genuinely unreal. And is Beyonce the best vocalist? Probably not. Here's the thing though. Beyonce is an amazing performer. You can be one of the best and not have the best voice. Like Chris Brown, I think he's at the top of the game. Chris Brown has an amazing voice, but it's not the best voice I've ever heard in my life. It's really good. Anyway, let me get back on topic. Beyonce is killing the game, and I understand why everybody goes so hard for her. And I think I am officially joining the team that's going hard for her. I ran away for a little bit. I came back for homecoming, but now I'm going to the next level. And I honestly just can't wait to see who becomes the next Beyonce. There are a lot of people saying that Chloe Bailey is going to be the next Beyonce. And, Matthew Knowles, Beyonce's father, said, "Oh, no, no, no. Are you crazy?" He was very rude in his response. But in all honesty, I can see it. Chloe is multifaceted. She can produce, she can write, she can play, she can sing, she can dance, she can dress, she connects with her audience. Chloe Bailey has a lot going on for her right now. And I'm not trying to like bash Haley or something, but I'm talking about Chloe right now in particular. I think she has the potential to be the next Beyonce. One of the things that makes Beyonce so popular is that all races, religion, let me not say religions, but everybody loves Beyonce. Whether you're from Asian descent, whether you're from African descent, whether you're from European descent, and everywhere else, we all love Beyonce's music, and you can't deny it. There's at least one song that you bump. So, Beyonce, I always say this, Beyonce, if you ever listen to my podcast, girl, just let me tell you, you are that girl. You are that chick. You are doing your thing. I think you deserve all the privacy because, girl, you work so hard. Your music, Homecoming, literally, Homecoming is the reason why I make it through my days. I just want to give Beyonce her creds. She's amazing. She deserves the 28 Grammys. And I just can't wait to see what's next. It probably won't be too much next because she's accomplished so much. And Beyonce's like, what, 40 something? She honestly deserves to take the break. But as a fan, I want more. I really want more Beyonce. Okay, y'all, that's enough about Beyonce and her amazingness. Let's move on to the topic of the episode, The Bachelor. Everything that's going on between the racial insensitivity, the bullying. Oh my goodness. Whew, this season was so much, but we're gonna start at the end and eventually, we'll go back to like my overall thoughts from the season. So I'm gonna talk about the three people that we saw on screen most of the time on Monday night. So we saw Matt, who was the Bachelor. I was so excited for this season. I thought and think that Matt is so handsome. I think he's such a fun guy. And I think I love how he understands the importance of giving back through his organization. I forgot what it's called, ABC Food Tours. Really, really cool. I was just so, so excited to see him on the screen. And then as the show came on, I realized, yo, Matt is a really emotional guy. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, but I think that's really interesting to see on TV because we don't typically see guys that are, like that on television. It's very rare that we're seeing a guy like crying on TV and like talking about his feelings and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed seeing that. Maybe more men seeing Matt on TV expressing his emotions will make it more guys in their day-to-day lives to share their emotions. I don't know. Okay, let's talk about Michelle. My girl Michelle, the runner. From the moment she walked out of that limo, I liked Michelle. When I say energy, just personality. Like she seemed so sweet. She was so genuine and real. I love how honest she was with Matt from the jump. And I think that's what I I know Matt really liked Michelle. I know he did. Loved her since the day she came in. She was a gem. And I'm so happy that, she's going to be one of the bachelorettes. We're going to talk about that later. Now let's talk about Rachel. I'm going to give my opinion pre Reddit pictures and the racial insensitivity stuff that came out. I used to really like Rachel. I knew she was going to be in the final like 4, 5, or 3 just because from the first day you could tell Matt really, really liked Rachel. She just seemed like this really sweet girl. She seemed like she was probably really flirty. And you could tell Matt had a different type of energy towards her the entire season, I promise you. If you've already watched, like go back and look at their clips together. He treated her different. You could tell she was a front runner. And I used to think Rachel was really, really sweet. Now, let's address the racial insensitivity and, Rachel's family and just her past. Could be her present, but for what I know, it's her past. Picture surfaced of Rachel going to an Old South slash antebellum party, which unfortunately is very popular in the South, especially for your big Alabama schools. Hannah Brown actually just got under fire for actually going to one of those too. All I can say is I'm disappointed, but I'm not surprised. But that doesn't mean that it's okay whatsoever. I know a lot of people use the excuse, "Oh, I didn't know what this was about." I feel like I would have done my research like, "Oh, what is an antebellum party? Why are we dressing up like the, I don't know, 1800s, 1700s, 1600s?" That that was just strange. And, her liking pro-Trump posts and pro-police posts, yada, yada, yada. That's your choice. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna, you can believe what you want to believe. I'm gonna believe what I want to believe. But I think the Old South Party was one of the biggest issues, I think. And also just some tweets from her and I think her friends that resurfaced were just kind of strange. But I find it difficult to move forward when people have situations like this. And I'm not saying I'm going to harp on it, but I just don't. If this happened to one of my friends, I wouldn't be able to give them any advice because I think I'm a very forgiving person. I believe people when they tell me stuff. Unfortunately, that's not necessarily a good thing. But she apologized and she said she's going to educate herself. And you know what? We'll never really know if she truly educated herself and, isn't the same person that she was in 2018. I don't know. I don't even want to talk about that anymore. But I did want to mention, I think it's good that she's educating herself. I almost want to say, oh, it's sad that her and Matt had to break up. But I mean, I think we all would have expected that. So anyway, let's move on from Rachel. The episode, a big part of the finale episode was Matt saying that he was not ready to be engaged. And in my personal opinion, I think that is totally understandable. I personally wouldn't be ready either if I was the bachelorette, and I totally respect his decision. I think it's actually a little interesting though that the whole time he was saying I'm looking for somebody to be my wife, lifetime partner, but the second after he had his conversation with his mom, everything changed. His mom said feelings fade really, really mess with his head. And I agree. Like feelings might fade, but I think that's a risk that you have to be willing to take, whether you want to marry someone or even if you want to be in a regular relationship with them. Like we all know this as a fact. Feelings fade. So it was just so interesting that that affected him so much. And I honestly felt really, really uncomfortable with last week's episode where where he was talking with his dad. I don't think that should have been aired on national television. I think that comes from a place that was a lot of hurt going on in that scene. And I think that's something that we better behind closed doors. Like Matt could have told us about it, but I just don't think it should have been filmed and put on national television. But I will say I am happy that they were able to, take that first step to try and resolve the hurt that was there. But again, that made me a little bit uncomfortable. And, after seeing Matt struggle with, deciding if he wanted to be engaged, I wonder if Matt has commitment issues. Not saying that he can't be faithful per se, but struggles with being with women long term because he's afraid of being like his dad. That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting. And I don't think Matt should get married until he has grown from this current state. You know what I mean? Even if Rachel did not have the racially insensitive past, I think it's good that he didn't get engaged from the show because I don't think he's ready. And that's totally okay. You don't have to be ready. But I just think that was just really, really interesting. I kind of wish he would have realized that before going on the show. You know what I mean? To save himself and the girls from hurt. But, ooh, and I think when he went ring shopping, that I think every time they do ring shopping, that's when everything becomes real because you're like, oh shoot, this is like a lifetime. This should be a lifetime commitment. I really shouldn't just be BSing around, for the sake of a show. So after the whole situation with the bomb, Matt had his last date with Michelle, and literally it was his last date. I thought the scaling down the building that would be so fun. I would be scared, but I think that'd be really fun. And then they had like their small kind of dinner later that kind of didn't even really happen. And I was really tearing up when she was giving him the gift of the jerseys that said Warriors changing Warriors. And then on the back, it had Mr. and Mrs. James. That was so cute to me. But you could tell how sad and uncomfortable Matt was the entire time. And it broke my heart when he admitted that he was feeling some type of way all day. Like, I feel like, Matt, if you knew you weren't gonna choose Michelle, I think you should have said so in the morning, canceled their morning date, said your goodbye in the morning. But I feel like the fact that you spent that whole day with her, smiling, kissing, cuddling, yada, 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 and you knew what you were going to do was kind of heartless, Matt James, just saying. But that's just my personal opinion. And I really loved how, Michelle tried to ask for clarity from Matt, even though she knew that he was preparing to break it off with her. I personally, I'm not tough enough to have that conversation. I think that's really important though, because if you are going to end something with someone, it would be nice to know why and just not be left with all those questions. And I found it super interesting that during the after the final rose, Michelle mentioned that she tried to talk with Matt, but he didn't want to. That was tea. That was tea. But we'll talk about that a little later when we talk about the after the rose ceremony. But going on to like his supposed to be date with Rachel, is also interesting that he didn't let her know in advance. Like, Matt, like, what's going on? Is it really you or is it the producers that are making these, not so nice moves? But I definitely noticed, like, with Rachel in particular, I feel like this bachelorette process is so lonely because you don't have anyone you can talk to. Like, normally, male or female, you're going to talk to the people around you about your relationship or even have the ability to journal or just you talk to other people. But when you're on The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, you have no one to talk to because everybody that's there except for the crew is in love with your man. I get why they talk about the whole mental health issue after the show because you're like literally alone for 3 months. And it was actually really, really interesting to see Rachel so doubtful about the relationship, but at the same time, it was funny because we knew that he wasn't gonna break up with her, but she's over here all sad, blah 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 blah. It was just kind of funny, but not for her at the moment. But it was funny as us watching. Like, girl, stop complaining. He got the ring. He not giving it to you yet, but he's coming. Okay, chill. And in all honesty, I did see a tweet saying, I think people weren't really that connected to the season because it was more drama than actually getting to know the people. And you know what? That's a really good point. I feel like we got to know Michelle a little bit, mainly because of her date, like that she had with Matt on the hometowns with the kids. I feel like that kind of really opened my eyes as to who Michelle was. But Rachel, in all honesty, we don't know much about her. 12 episodes, 11 episodes, and we don't know much about Rachel. That is really strange. We don't know much about the person that quote unquote won the show. That is, I'm not feeling that. We need to change that. So we need better edits next season. Like, I need to know who these people are. I think we knew Matt James pretty okay. I think they did pretty okay with getting to know Matt. But for the girls, especially the people that are going to be the front runners, please, ABC, show us more of them so we can actually have like a real opinion. Like Bree, I really like Bree, but I literally knew nothing about her. I think again, hometowns really helped, except for Rachel. I feel like I didn't learn anything more about Rachel from hometowns. But please show us more. ABC, please. I know you're listening to this. All right, so let's shift into after the final rose, which was hosted by Emmanuel Aiko. I hope I'm saying his name right. Oh my God, Emmanuel Aka. Acha. Oh my God. Emmanuel, I'm so sorry for saying your name wrong. I literally practiced it before here, but I don't remember, and I need to go figure out how to say it. Hold on. Emmanuel Acho. Got it. Okay. Anyway, I really, really liked him as a host. I think he looks good as the host. I think he did a really, really great job. I would not be mad if they replaced Chris Harrison with him. I know they said Tasha and Caitlyn, the former bachelorettes, I think they're gonna take Chris's job for the Bachelorette, but I'm here for Emmanuel. I'm here for Emmanuel as the Bachelor host. I would really, really like that. I think that'd be really, really fun. And I think he would just do a really, really great job at it. So as we know, he was the host and he asked a lot of, difficult questions, which I appreciate. Who knows if Chris Harrison would have done that? But like I mentioned earlier, I found it super interesting that Michelle asked to have those 2 minutes to speak with Matt, but he refused. I think that's so weird. I'm wondering if the producers didn't let that happen or if he actually really did say no. I don't want to speak with her. Now, if he didn't actually want to speak with her, I think that's super rude. You break up with somebody, I think you should take the 2 minutes out of your day. And I'm sure it was literally the next day to talk to this person, let them get their questions answered. Like, so that's why I'm hoping it was production and not Matt. And then when Matt actually comes on stage, you can see the different emotions on her face, like her face changes. But I think, Michelle can get through this. She's about to be the bachelorette. She's gonna have hella guys on the show that she can choose from. So that was just really awkward. And I thought it was hilarious when she addressed, how Matt doesn't kiss with his eyes open. I thought I was the only person that noticed that. I thought that was so weird. Sometimes I open my eyes a little bit, but his eyes were always open as if he like couldn't close them. It was so strange. And then for the section with just Matt and Emmanuel, I think it was good that they did have the uncomfortable conversations with the two black men. That's a kind of like a play on words for Emmanuel's book. But I like how Matt, said they broke up. But Matt just, I mean, I understand Matt's demeanor because it was a hard night. You knew you had to see Rachel, which would be the first time in weeks. You knew you would have to talk about your breakup, have to talk about your feelings. He just wasn't in the best of moods. And I think that's totally valid. And I think the conversations that they had between Matt and Emmanuel are really good. I think that's good to have on national television. They talked about the pressure of, being a black man on a show that's never had a black man as the lead. And I think that was really, really good. I really wish I could see how, non black people took those conversations. But hopefully, it was well received and people learned from what they were saying. And in all honesty, from the Rachel and Matt section, it was kind of boring, in all honesty. It was interesting to see how hopeful Rachel was, and I get that she would be hopeful, like maybe we can get back together. But Matt, that's not in his cards, according to him. And didn't even want to do a hug at the end. Yeah, their vibes were just super, super interesting. If this was my first season of watching The Bachelor, I don't think I would watch it again just because there was so much drama and it was draining to watch week after week. I didn't even watch The Woman Tell All because I knew I was going to get a headache if I saw what's her name? Queen Victoria on my screen. I couldn't put myself through that. And the girls going back, nope, nope, don't want to do that. So that's really it. Oh, I loved that they're doing 2 seasons of The Bachelorette. So Katie, oh my goodness, Katie was funny. She was the one that came out of the limo and she had a dildo. That was like her entrance thing. That was hilarious. And Michelle, they're both going to be The Bachelorette, 2 different seasons, but all in 2021. I'm so excited because like Katie and Michelle are completely different. So I'm sure their seasons are going to go so different, but hopefully they find love. And I'm so excited to just learn more about Katie. Like I love Michelle too, but let's talk about Katie first. I think she's going to be a star. She's outspoken. She's gonna be good, okay? That's all I'm gonna say. I'm excited for her. Michelle, I just can't wait to see like how she is as the lead of a show. You know what I mean? Because she just seems like such a regular person, literally. So I'm excited to see how her season goes. This is just gonna be a really good year for Bachelor Nation. I'm hoping. I wonder who the next. Well, I guess the next Bachelor will come from Katie's season. So that's going to be interesting. But yeah, so the finale and the final rose, honestly, were not that interesting. I would have been fine probably just reading a summary about them, but as a member of Bachelor Nation, I felt like I needed to watch it. And then I wanted to do a whole, podcast episode, which we're listening to now. I wanted to do an episode about it. So I felt like, okay, let me watch it so I can actually have like real opinions. And now I want to talk about this season overall. Like I said earlier, it was so draining. So draining. Like, it wasn't even fun to watch anymore. The girls were mean. We didn't even know much about a lot of the girls. It just felt like for the first 8 episodes, they just had to cover it would be drama and then group dates and then a one-on-one date and more drama. It's like, please don't show us that. Show us more like love and more happiness. Please. I beg of you. Oh my gosh, but I at first I was really other than the fact that Matt James is the bachelor, I was really excited for the group of women that they brought in. I thought it was very diverse. I thought that everyone was well accomplished. So many beautiful women. Like I just thought they did a really, really great job with casting. But I was looking on Bachelor data and I realized the people of color barely got any screen time. Obviously, Michelle and Bree got more screen time when they were the final 3. But other than that, like, for example, Serena, I knew nothing about Serena until she did her hometown date with Matt. Like, I didn't know she was from Canada. I literally knew nothing about her. Probably didn't even know her name until it was the final 4. So I just wish that they didn't have so much drama. They should have gotten rid of Victoria weeks ago. She should have been gone after night one. She was so rude. The girls were so catty. The bullying that was going on was not acceptable. Like literally, it was like Mean Girls, the Bachelor edition. It was so draining. But I think what made the show bearable is just the fact that I knew Matt was really in this for a good reason. Matt is so handsome and so fit. So that always adds a little niceness to the episode. But I think if you just watched The Bachelor for the very first time this year, give it another chance. This season, don't let this season write you off from the show forever. Like The Bachelor is normally good. Give it a chance. And it's actually kind of funny to me how the Bachelor and Bachelorette franchise has kind of been failing as of lately when it comes to the relationships. So I started watching during Hannah Brown's season. Hannah's not single, but she's not dating the person that she picked. Peter Weber, that was a hot mess. He's quote unquote single. Then Claire Crowley, ugh, she ended the show early and broke up with the guy, or they broke up, but now it looks like they're back together. We don't really know what's going on with them. Tasha was a success with Zach. So happy for them, love them together. And then now we have Matt, who is single for now. I'm sure. Well, Matt, I think he needs to work through his emotions, but Matt is a good looking guy, and women are going to be falling at his feet very, very soon. Okay. Matter of fact, they're probably already falling at his feet now because Matt, very, very handsome guy, super nice, great job. He's just I like him. He's like different from like Tyler C, who I also really like, but Matt James is such a catch. But before we go, I do want to talk about how we can maybe relate The Bachelor to adulting, because this is an adulting podcast. I think a big part of adulting, there's so many different things that I could say, but one I'll start off with is remember that every action that you do has a consequence, whether it's a positive consequence, a good, or let me say this. Every action that you do has a result. That could be a positive result. So, example, you exercise today. That's a positive result. You know what I mean? You're working out your body, you're burning fat, burning calories, all that great stuff. While something like you run over your dog, that has a negative result. You could go to jail. I'm assuming you could go to jail for that. You know what I mean? So, just remember everything, whether it's going to a specific themed party or liking certain posts on social media or tweeting certain things. Remember that everything that you do, there is a result, whether it's going to come now or whether it's going to come in 3 years. I think, is it the Bible that talks about everything done in the dark will eventually come in the light? So just, y'all, be careful with the decisions that you make. I don't want y'all to end up like Rachel, whose life is like honestly forever changed, not necessarily for the better right now. I think after some time passes, she'll probably do the whole influencer career thing because she has a lot of followers now. But for now, that girl got to lay low or else people will bite her head off. And I think that'll probably be good for her just to kind of comprehend everything. But yeah, so one, remember that. Two, I would say be careful who you give your heart to. That applies to Matt and Michelle. Just be careful who you give your heart to because people can and potentially will break your heart. And of course, your heart can always be mended, but I would prefer for you not to have to mend it than constantly mend it over and over because you're giving your heart to multiple people. Another thing that we can learn from The Bachelor when it comes to adulting is not being afraid to stand up for either yourself or for others. With Katie, there was a big situation where she kind of told on the other girls to Matt. The girls were bullying the new girls. And did that put Katie in some hot water? Oh, heck yes. But I think it was necessary. You know what I mean? Sometimes we're going to have to speak up for others that can't or don't necessarily speak up for themselves, whether that's in the workplace or in relationships or when you're at the store and you're seeing somebody being treated poorly. You know what I mean? So I definitely encourage you guys to speak up for others. I think that's something I'm still working on. And last but certainly not least, I think another thing that we can learn from The Bachelor that applies to adulting is that it's important to understand other people's points of view and understand that you're not always right. That's something that we saw Chris Harrison not do And that is why our friend does not have a job right now. The fact that he was sticking up for Rachel and not listening to the words of a Black woman who was trying to help him understand put him in hot water. Him saying, oh, well, it's different going to an Old South party in 2018 versus 2020. No, it's not. Wrong is wrong. I think Emmanuel said this on the show. History doesn't always have to repeat itself. Bad history, we don't want that to repeat itself. We need to remember it, but it does not have to repeat itself. We have to learn from our mistakes. And guys, remember, you don't have the answers to everything. When somebody is trying to educate you on something, listen to them. Take in what they're saying. You don't have to immediately respond. Be a sponge. Take in that knowledge. But all right, y'all, that's all I have for you guys this week on the Graduated and Grown podcast. Again, it was me, Ariane, here talking with you guys. If you don't already follow our social media, head over to Instagram at Graduated and Grown and check out what we have posted around the episode. If you haven't already watched the finale, I mean, I personally wouldn't suggest going back and watching this season of The Bachelor. I would just probably hold tight until next season of The Bachelorette, which should be like probably mid to late summer. And I think it's going to be really, really good. I think Katie, she's going to bring the heat. I promise you. So, again, follow the Instagram, rate this podcast 5 stars if you haven't already. And I will talk to you guys next week. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Graduated and Grown podcast. I appreciate you so much. If you haven't already, be sure to rate this podcast 5 stars and subscribe to the podcast so you can get a notification every single time a new episode is posted each week. Also, don't forget to follow our Instagram at Graduated and Grown so you can learn a little bit more about our guests, about our topics, get some resources, and provide some feedback and or episode ideas for the podcast. All right, y'all, it was your host, Ariane, and I'll talk with you all next week.